Hey everybody, so for this session, all we're going to do is a single practice problem. So here's the problem here on the screen. It is a slot machine. So when the program runs, it should do the following. Ask the user to enter some amount of money they would like to insert, and instead of displaying images, which is obviously very complex, the program will randomly select a word from the following list. So cherry, orange, plums, bell, melon, bar. The program will select and display a word from this list 3 times, so kind of similar to what you'd see on a slot machine. If none of the randomly selected words match, the program will inform the user that they've won $0. If 2 words match, the program will inform the user that they've won 2 times the amount entered. If 3 words match, the program will inform the user they've won 3 times the amount entered. The program will ask whether the user wants to play again, and if so, the steps are repeated. If not, the program displays the total amount of money entered into the slot machine and the total amount won. Break your program into functions where appropriate. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And we're just going to do some spacing here. Okay. So take a second, pause the video, take a stab at it, and then if you get stuck, come back and we'll do it together. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to take a look and take a stab at it. So let's go ahead and start doing it. So if you watched my class rules video, you'll know that def main is where everything is going to start from. Okay, so there's a few pieces of information here that we can kind of pick out and start with. I would say cherry, orange, plum, melon, bar. These make a really good candidate for a global. So let's go ahead and make that. So I'm going to make a global, and I'm going to put it in all caps. So slot ops for options equals, I'm going to make this a tuple. So here we can see cherry, orange, plum, bell, melon, and bar. Whoops, forgot the string. Okay, perfect. All right, because these things are not supposed to change during the run of the program, so they do make a pretty good candidate for a global constant. Okay, so let's kind of start getting into the logic of our program. So I'll get rid of this print statement. So the first thing we gotta do is get money from the user, right? If they're gonna bet. So I'm gonna say bet is equal to, and we'll assume that it's whole dollars that we're doing here, right? So let's just assume it's integers. So int input enter money to bet. Okay. So once we've got that, we have to kind of start playing the slot game itself, right? So in order to do that, we have to get randomly the slot choices. So let's go ahead and do that. So slot 1 is equal to random dot, and I'm going to use choice here. And now we don't have random in here, so I'm going to go ahead and import that. Okay, so we're going to get a random choice from slot ops. Okay, and then I'm just going to copy this line. Alright, so we've got our 3 slot options now. So once we've got those, we want to display them to the user, because this is a slot machine and got to be able to see what actually happened during this. So I'm going to use the F format, and I'm just going to say slot 1, slot 1, space, slot 2, space, and slot 3. Okay. So once we've output that information, right, now we have to actually do the logic to say, did this user actually win anything? So let's go ahead and do that now. So if slot 1 equals slot 2 and slot 2 is equal to slot 3, This is basically saying that all of them are equal. We got all three. That means we need to get 3 times our bet. So I'm going to go ahead and say bet is equal to bet times 3. And we can actually shorthand this and just say bet times equals 3. I'm then going to print come on, U1, and I'm going to use bet, and I forgot to put my F format in here, but there we go. And then I'm actually going to use this line again, so I'll copy it. And now we're going to go on to the elif, which is if 2 of them match. So this one's a little more complex, so it's slot 1 equals slot 2, or slot 1 equals slot 3, or slot 2 equals slot 3. If that's the case, bet times equals 2, because that means that we had 2 that matched. Print U1 bet. Else, in this case, it's you lost. Okay, so now at this point, we've got kind of our logic all put together, and we need to do a couple of things still before we're done. So one is ask the user if they'd like to play again, and the other is if they don't want to play again, we have to output kind of some running totals. So total amount of money entered, and then the total amount won. So let's kind of do those running totals. So total bet is actually pretty easy. So total bet, we'll start off setting it equal to 0. And then once the bet is made, I'm going to say total bet plus equals bet. So every time they bet some money, it's going to be added to the total bet. The other one we have to do is total winnings, right? So how much did they win during their plays? Well, I've kind of overwritten the bet here based on whatever their winnings were, and this may or may not be the best option for this. So I think what I'm going to do instead is make another variable. I'm going to say win equals 0, kind of similar to what we did here with the total bets. So win is equal to 0. And then here I'm going to say win is equal to bet times 3. And then I'm going to put win in the output, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Win equals bet times 2, and then change this output to say the win, otherwise you lost. So now I can say that my total win, which I'm actually going to throw at the top here, right next to total bet, so total win equals 0. I'm going to say total win plus equals win, right? Because now it's either going to be 0, because I'm not updating it in the else case, or it's going to be the bet times 3 or the bet times 2. Okay, so now we have to implement that go again logic. So let's go ahead and do that. So go again is equal to input go again. And then 1 equals yes. Anything else equals no. And then if go again equals, not equal to 1, right? They don't want to go again. We're going to break. Now the break only works in the context of a loop, so I have to set that up now. So what part of this logic do we want to repeat? Well, it's going to be everything from here to here. So I'll go ahead and just indent that. And then I'll do while true to make an infinite loop. Okay, we're looking pretty good. The only thing left is to output the end results. So once we've broken out of the loop, we're going to print, and then I'm going to use the F format here, total earned, total win, and then print F format, total bet, total bet. Okay. So that takes care of, I think, this program. Let's go ahead and run. I'll pull this up this way we can kind of see it. So I'll bet $10. And it looks like I won $20. So, given that we have a win case, I'm going to go ahead and hit no. I want to make sure that the calculations at the end are doing good. Total earned, $20. Total bet is 10. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do some more testing. Okay, I'll go again. I'm on a roll. Go again. And I lost. Okay, so in this case, I have bet $30 and I've won $40. Perfect. Okay, I'd say our program is good. So, notice here we didn't actually break out anything into different functions, right? Everything's all contained in this one big main function. So go ahead and take a second, given the code that we currently have, and see how you can break this out into different functions. Okay, so hopefully you took a second and tried it yourself, so let me go ahead and take a stab at it. I'm going to go ahead and actually move the console here over to the right. I'm going to minimize this over here a little bit, and that way I get more real estate on the up and down screen. So to me, there's a couple of pieces of logic that kind of stand out as far as probably should move out. This one right here, so this if logic here, and then maybe the slots themselves. So that's just my opinion. There's obviously an infinite number of ways that you could have done this, but this is just kind of how I thought about it. So I'm going to make a function now and say def play slots. So this is where this logic's going to live. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this out. I'm sorry, cut it out. And then I'm going to paste it inside of this. And the indentation got a little messed up, so let's go ahead and fix that. Okay, so we've got our slot choices here. So now we can do a couple of things. We can either return these slots and then make another function to accept them with 3 parameters, or we can just take these as they are now and pass them to the function from here. So let's go ahead and explore that second option here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say take these, cut that out, and I'm going to make another function. So def, and then here I'm going to say get win multiplier. And it's going to take slot 1, slot 2, and slot 3. Paste. And some of this stuff got messed up with the indentation, so let's go ahead and fix that. Okay, so in here, we don't have access to the bet anymore, right? And that's why I named this win multiplier. It's not actually going to do the math for you. It's just going to give you what the multiplier actually is. So this number here. So instead of this, I'm going to modify my output as well. So I'll say you've won 3x, return 3, right? Because that's the multiplier. I'll go ahead and get rid of this. You won 2x, return 2. Otherwise, you lost, return 0 for the multiplier. Okay, so now let's go ahead and call this function from here. So get win multiplier, slot 1, slot 2, and slot 3. Okay, now that we've got our win multiplier, so let's just assume a user 1, right? They got 2 slots. This is going to be returning 2 from this function. So what are we doing with that 2? Well, we could make a variable called multiplier equals, right? And then we could return that variable. But I'm going to go ahead and shorthand this a little bit and just say return get win multiplier. So whatever returns from here will immediately be returned here, and that means whoever calls this guy is going to receive that value. Okay, so once we've got that all squared away, I'm going to go ahead and call the multiplier here. So multiplier is equal to play slots. Once you've got that down, we no longer need this variable. So this becomes bet times equals multiplier. And then total win is going to be plus equals bet. So if the player loses, right, they have a multiplier of 0, their bet becomes 0, and therefore their total win gets added to 0, right? If they win 3, bet is multiplied by 3, total win gets added that. So it sounds like our logic is pretty solid right now, and I think we're at a good point to go ahead and try to test. So let's see how we do. Okay, I'll do 10. Alright, let's try again. Alright, not so hot right now. Okay, here we go. So I've bet $30, and I've won 2x, which means I should have 30 and 20 for the output. So total earned is 20 for that 2x, and the total bet is 30. Perfect. So it sounds like we didn't break anything. So this is just how I solved it. If you solved it in a different manner, kudos to you. Hopefully you see the differences here, and you can kind of decide which way you like better. But this is how I did it. So hopefully you enjoyed doing this practice problem, and I will see you in the next one.